This is a clock case I made in the 1990s. I made it because I just quite fancied the design. They're quite busy. There's lots of different things to do: carving, wood turning, fretwork, marquetry, making my own bandings. And I thought I'd do it as an article for a woodworking magazine, but it never happened. I made this from photographs. I'd had a couple of Anglo-American clocks in before, but not this particular model. This is from one of those. That's the original design for this, but I don't like these very much, so I put those on. I think they look a lot better. Obviously I wasn't filming things back then, so I did take a load of photographs, obviously, to do the article, like I say, which never happened. This is the main carcass. The side pieces I used mahogany, the rest of it's veneered in walnut. To make the mahogany look like walnut, you have to kill the redness off, and the traditional way of doing it is using this stuff, which is green copperas. You mix it with water and it actually reacts with the tannin in the wood and turns it blue. So if it's weak enough, you can just enough to kill the red and it turns it grey, so it looks a bit like walnut. So that's the carcass. The photographs are not very good, actually. I was a bit disappointed. I'm sure I got more than this, but I can't find any. That was carving the ears. I do intend to do another one of these. I've got a blank in Iroko. These were carved in walnut. They're never carved in walnut. I don't know what they were made from. It did look like Iroko. So I'm going to do a carving in that, and I'll see what it looks like. This was making up the banding. I had two goes at it. This had lots of bright colours in it, which is very typical of these clocks. And these were a little bit more sombre in colour. So that's one I went with. These are just like test samples. The actual string in either side, that's the commercially bought stuff, boxwood and black. But I found it too wide, so I glued 3 pieces of veneer together, 2 pieces of sycamore and some black harewood, which is that piece there, and then sliced it up to give me the 3 very thin lines which I've used on that one. There's just a few more pictures of that. That's it on a proper piece of walnut. That's for the curved bit at the bottom, and I think that was one for the door. So to glue it on the base, I actually used a hot air gun to melt the glue, because obviously it's not flat, so you can't use an iron. So that was quite a tricky thing to do. That's it cleaned up a little bit. There's a bad picture. That's the door there that's got the bits glued on. This is just cutting out the little round marquetry discs, which is a Maltese cross. I stack up a few and do them in a batch. Then they were taped together. Mark out where they've got to be cut out as a circle. And then line up a wad punch and give it a belt. They were punched on the reverse side, so the other side of that's got the veneer tape on, which is the face side, because obviously you've got to take that off once you've glued it down. The surround was made up out of 8 pieces and held together with like a bit like a biscuit, which are these pieces here. It's a traditional way of doing it, but I had to mark it out with the compasses so that I could line up the edges, because I had to veneer these pieces before it went together. Because the banding was straight, drawing it with a compass meant I could mark the edges and line everything up properly. So once it was veneered, without those round marquetry discs, it was glued together. Then I fixed it to a faceplate after to cut it into a circle and turn the outside edge. Then marked where the little marquetry discs went. And again with the wad punch, give it a good wallop. and twisted it, stuck a screwdriver in the end and just twisted it a bit, and then chiselled out the bit that I didn't need. Next thing was to glue the discs in. This jelly stuff in a tub is animal glue. I used to buy it in big tubs like that, already mixed, but I'll just buy it in the beads now. This is just the view of the back, fitting the catch for the bezel. That's fitting the movement. A few more bits of the case still in the white. Fitting the door. I did have my Hobbies A1 then still to do the fretwork. With the ears, carving those. Fitting those little turned finials on the ends. And then the case is complete, ready for polishing. Well, that's all the photographs I can find. They're not very good. I'm sure there had some better ones somewhere, but that's all I've got. So in the next video I'll do a carving of one of the ears in Iroko, and I'll button polish it and see what it looks like. The walnut's just its natural colour with just button polish on it. These white pieces of wood, which is tulip, was stained with Van Dyke crystals. The movement's a copy of an original one. The only problem with them is the hand shaft's a bit too short, so if I push the hands on as tight as they should be, they'll rub on the dial. If I move the movement further forward by packing it up, the pendulum, which is at the front of the movement, ends up fouling the inside of the case. Although I've positioned the movement as best I could, I still had to take a chunk out of the door to stop the pendulum rubbing. So I bought the Seth Thomas label, which I glued inside. I also got the lecture set of Seth Thomas to stick on the dial, and a key, a reproduction key with ST stamp on it. I had this on the wall for about 20 years. I decided to have a change, so I picked up an old English Fusey dial clock movement with a 14-inch dial, made a case for that, and now that's replaced this one. This is the replacement clock. It did have Roman numerals on it originally. It's a 14-inch dial, but all the paint was flaking off because it's a zinc dial, and they tend to flake off on those quite easily. So I took it to the dial restorer, who's sadly no longer with us, and on the wall he had a Hovis advertising clock that he'd just got in. He'd bought it at auction, and I said, "Can you paint that on?" He said, "Yeah, paint what you like on it." So he did, and I really like this one. So that's the movement. The dial surround is original. It's the wrong profile for this design, but rather than throw it away, I decided to keep it. This is the bit I made. Originally it would have just been a round head, so it would have had a curved base with a door underneath. But this is a design I've always liked, and eventually I found one. I took some photographs and drawings and measurements and made this for it. So it's just a big oak back box with two doors, one at the bottom on that side, one at the top on this side, so you can get the pendulum in, and carve this front. So it looks like it's sitting on a bracket, but it's actually just hanging on the wall from that.